Back in September, I picked up my new bike, a Specialized Tarmac SL8. It came as a complete comp build, but I stripped everything down to the frame and rebuilt it with my own cherry-picked components. I got some really cool feedback here on YouTube, and some of you who were cross-shopping the Tarmac with other brands even reached out for advice. One viewer shared his max budget and asked me what I thought about going for a Tarmac Pro as his first bike. And my answer wasn't a simple yes or no. I started asking questions, and pretty quickly we came to the same conclusion. The stock build wasn't the full budget. To make that bike fit properly, he'd need to spend more. And that's exactly what I want to talk about today, the hidden cost of pro stock builds. Let's put ourselves back into the viewer's shoes. It's January, the month of resolutions. 2026 is the year you finally decide to get into cycling. You open YouTube, Instagram, and suddenly it's all flagship bikes. Aggressive fits, amazing paint jobs, white decals on wheels, all shot in bucket list riding locations. The excitement is real. Buying an expensive bike that sells you the dream feels amazing. We've all been there. Then you start wondering, how much do these bikes actually cost? You go on the brand's website and reality hits. 18,000, 19,000, 20,000. You snap back. There's no way this is justifiable. So you tell yourself, you'll be reasonable, you're a casual cyclist. You don't look at entry-level builds, but you don't go all in either. You look right in the middle. And that's where the pro stock bike starts to make sense. It's got amazing components, carbon wheels, maybe not the white decals, a cool paint job, usually a one-piece cockpit. On paper, it's the best value you can get. And to be fair, that's how economies of scale work. Brands like Giant, Trek, Specialized, Cannondale, any brand really, they buy thousands of the same parts, get huge discounts, and pass on some of that value to us. First-time buyers often overlook a simple fact. These complete bikes are built around a median height, average proportions, and average flexibility. The second you fall outside that norm, things starts to change. And as a tall rider, I'm just a tad over 6'1", those compromises add up even faster. Over the years, I've gathered a bit of a graveyard of parts. Let's start with handlebars. Most stock builds come with bars that are too wide. This isn't just my opinion. The consensus is that bar width should match shoulder width measured acromion to acromion. Most men land between 38 and 42 centimeters. Narrower bars are usually faster and more comfortable if you have good flexibility and handling. Too wide hurts your aero, and too narrow can mess with your breathing and control. If you look at this chart from Specialized, you'll see that all Tarmacs ship with comically wide handlebars. For taller riders, size 56 and up, you'll almost definitely swap your bars down the line for something that actually fits. Speaking of taller riders, my bike size usually comes with 175mm cranks, which are definitely too long for me. I end up lowering my saddle to get a proper extension, and the top of the pedal stroke feels a bit unnatural compared to slightly shorter cranks. When I built my Crux, I jumped on the short crank trend, 165mm, hoping I'd finally spin at 100 RPMs. That didn't happen. For me, cranks around 170mm feel the best. I like the extension they give me. A lot of these pro builds come with integrated cockpits. And besides carbon wheels, one-piece carbon cockpits completely change how a bike looks and feels. It's great when the bike ships with the exact size you need, but more often than not, you either settle for what comes stock, or you buy the right size at a hefty price. Then comes installation.
I'm overzealous when I'm thinking about the cash flow. I never had no handouts, just came natural. I've been testing so much, all these wrestlers nice. All these different situations that I've been through. I seen pain trying to creep in through the window, but now I'm sliding through the hood in a benzo. You gotta separate yourself just to elevate. I keep some drink in my cup to see through the hate. Sometimes on the road to glory, you gotta press the brakes. I got a lesson plan for all my past mistakes. I swear I'm proud of all my best and my worst days. Proud of all my feet when I touch the ground. Front of 8 at Beijing, man, ain't know the sound.
My Roval Rapide cockpit arrived in late December, and I finally got around to installing it. I wanted to show everything that goes into swapping integrated handlebars, because it's far from a 30-minute job.
You gotta roll the dice. I risked a lot of different things just to live this life. When you down bad, you gotta pay the is life. They say life's a gamble, you gotta roll the dice. I risked a lot of different things just to live this life.
We started by removing the bar tape and disconnecting the hoses from the shifters. I run SRAM Red, which is wireless, so you're only dealing with hydraulic lines.
Rolex account of blue face. The whole world know my name off a mixtape. I still got the same brother since 6th grade. G-Wagon red seats, we on Biscayne.
All tarmac SL8s ship with uncut forks that can accommodate the base SL7 stem or the Revolve Repeat cockpit using the supplied spacers. In my case, we didn't need to cut the fork, but if you go for a different integrated cockpit, that can easily become an extra step.
What this ain't a phase. I paid dues, paid rent, and I stayed the same. I had teardrops running down my face. I've been through a lot. I had real pain, but dang.
In my previous Revolve Repeat unboxing, I showed how the hydraulic lines exit through the ports under the bars, not through the stem. That makes routing much easier. The hoses stuck neatly into the spacers under the cockpit.
They say life's a gamble, you gotta roll the dice. I risked a lot of different things just to live this life. When you down bad, you gotta pay the price. I've been through hell and back just to live this life. What's a life without sacrifice? Sometimes you gotta thank God and just roll the dice. But you know.
Okay.
Once the bar were mounted, we reinstalled the shifters, cut the excess hose length, and installed the new olives. Once everything was back together, we spent some time on the trainer dialing the shifters. The Revolve Repeat bars are narrower than the NV Aero bars I was running before, so I went with slightly less shifter tilt. I'm curious to see how that feels on longer rides.
Mais c'est vraiment ça qui est plate avec ce principe-là.
We also ran my Physique 1-to-1 pressure profile to check for any obvious pressure points. There are a lot of variables that can influence pressure data, but as long as nothing extreme shows up, you're probably 95% there. It looked pretty balanced, and I'll keep the saddle where it's currently at until I get some proper long rides in. Once that was done, it was time to wrap the bars. We went with Physique Microtex. It's 2mm thick, super tacky, and reversible. You can show the white logos if you want, but I'm keeping the black side up. Then, Cedric adjusted the brake pads and made sure there was no air left in the system. You run a syringe on each shifter bleed port and actuate the brake levers until all the air bubbles are gone. The work stand really helps here since you can move the bike around to get everything out. Here's the part nobody mentions in the sales pitch. When you swap stock components, you usually sell them at a loss, or they sit in your bike room forever. So even though you paid for them in the original bike price, you never really get that value back. Stock bikes look like great deals because they photograph well and spec high-end parts where it looks good on a website. But that value only exists if you keep the bike stock. So before buying your next bike, ask one simple question. How much of this bike am I actually going to keep? Because once you start swapping bars, stems, saddles, seat posts, wheels, tires, and cranks, that great deal disappears fast. I'm not saying stock bikes are bad, they're just optimized for the average rider, not necessarily you. And the cheapest bike up front is not always the cheapest bike in the end. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'll catch you guys soon.